Hello again. So, here we go again. Let's see here. This must be. Yes. Good. Okay, so last time we left off, the party had encountered, or they had been investigating this sunken house that was out in the swamp, or it wasn't really sunken, it's sinking. And they saw some sort of eldritch light emitting from the second story. So from there, they were like, okay, something's going on. There's chanting, there's dark magic occurring. So they were like, all right, well, let's go in there and just stop it, figure out what's going on. Because in their minds, they're thinking to themselves, this might be another situation like what had happened at the what was that place? The logging checkpoint at the river where they encountered that one monster that caused all that mayhem. So they were thinking, it's probably happening again. Oh yeah. By the way, the source book I use is Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. For 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, that is created by Critical Role, the company and show, and Wizards of the Coast, obviously, or Hasbro owns D&D 5th edition. Well, Dungeons and Dragons entirely. Anyways, so aside from that, let's move on. So essentially the party knows they're going in. They're going into a battleground. They know what's coming. So the battleground is this large flooded house in the jungle wetlands. Now the party enters the first floor, and they can tell that the whole first floor is just flooded, sunken. There's just furniture floating around, debris and everything. They're like, we can't see anything knee down. So it's also difficult terrain. So they have to be particularly careful whenever they're fighting in there because they can't move as fast. Anyways, with that, the party slowly starts going upstairs, right? They start stacking up pretty much on this on the door that leads to the master bedroom of this this sort of mansion. And what they discover is, as they first open the door, they kick it open because there's no real easy way of sneaking in and doing that sort of stuff. They discover that it is a group of creatures known as Sahagin, and there's 4 of them. There's 3 that appear to be basic like warriors with like spears with like hooks and ropes attached to them, and then there's one that has a sort of like shamanic staff, and that's the Sahagin priest. Anyways, they are up there, and Sahagin are kind of like mer dudes. They're mermen with little tails and stuff like that. They're not good at maneuvering on dry land, but they can. So, anyways, that's what they encounter up there, and they look to be surrounding a circle and performing a ritual, probably to summon something. So they're like, all right, what's going on here? Enough of that. That's what the party says, essentially. And the fight begins. So with that, as soon as like Vexen and Vorkeef wearing medium armor, a little bit heavier than everyone else, they step forward, right, to kind of take up the front and be the brunt of the to take on the Sahagin up front. They create a defensive line, essentially. And what ends up happening is the Sahagin warriors move in also to engage with them, and they create too much weight on the floor. And so what happens is they collapse through the floor and land down onto the first floor. So now Vexen and Vorkeef are down there facing off with the Sahagin warriors, and they're in difficult terrain while there's still one warrior and a priest upstairs. So the party split, and it's this big fight. So Vorkeef kind of doesn't even miss a beat. He uses some of his heavier melee spells to try and knock out one of the warriors as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Wick, Xander, and Nox's kid up there don't have anyone to be their front line anymore. So it's Xander and Wick pretty much taking a lot of the hits. And Nox's kid, of course, doing what he can as a ranger. But it's a pretty hectic fight. And they're also, in the meantime, also firing down through that open hole because they have advantage on the two Sahuagin that are down below. They have the high ground. So there's it's a very dynamic fight. There's a lot of fighting back and forth. But eventually, the party does succeed in defeating the Sahuagin. Not without Wick and Vorkeef and everyone else. I think Wick and Vorkeef, they both went down hard. And Xander kept getting knocked down, but Nox's kid was using health potions to kind of get him back up. But anyways, they survive, they succeed, and everyone's stabilized. And as time goes on, they take a short rest to try and get everyone back up and running. But from there, the party begins to start investigating the house. So from there, they essentially discover that there is water, right? The water is actually flowing. It's not just like stagnant and sitting still. It's actually slowly flowing. And so what they do is they follow the flow of the water. And what it does is it leads them to a large shed out towards the back of the property in kind of like an old abandoned garden of this mansion. And so essentially what happens is it is as it is flowing into what appears to be a very large shed at the back of the property, they discover that the water is actually flowing down what appears to be a rough-hewn staircase. So it's like a stone staircase leading downward, but it's natural, right? Or at least it looks like a staircase that has slowly been like either carved into the stone or slowly ruined or weathered away. Either way, it's a staircase leading down. And so from there, Vexen's like, all right, I'll go first, because he came out pretty healthy from that fight. So he goes down first, bow drawn, arrow in the notch, and what he discovers is a subterranean cavern with a very small hole above to let in light. And what he finds down there is a great tree with all just empty branches, no leaves or anything like that. And it has captives chained to it. So as soon as Vexen comes across this sort of horrific discovery, he's like, oh, everyone else better get down here with me. And so from there, they all come down, and they can see that the captives are in fact alive. They are kind of groaning softly and just moaning in agony. The captives, from the looks of it, they look to be townspeople or travelers and other vagrants that were kidnapped and bound to this great dead tree's limbs. And so they all look to be like the kind of people that they would recognize from Tuasoa. So they're like, oh, people have slowly been disappearing, but a small misstep in my what is it called? In my plot hole. Tuasoa was never letting anyone know, or the authorities of Tuasoa were unaware that people were slowly disappearing from the town. So I was like, I guess I forgot to mention that. But anyways, another little thing that I forgot that's later on in the notes is, yeah, they found what looks to be the viscera in the summoning circle back in the main house. They found that was resembling sort of the organs that were taken from the executed leader of the Regver Timber Guild. Anyways, so obviously they know where the organs and stuff that were taken from the leader of the Regver Timber Guild were being used for the summoning ritual. And again, they discovered that people have slowly been disappearing. Now, it's not a whole lot of people. It's like maybe 10 or so, right? So, for the most part, people are unaware. Some of them are travelers and vagrants, so, it's not uncommon for those sort of people to go missing on the road. But with that, the party begins to try and help them, what it's called. They're trying to remove them from those tree limbs. Xander's really good at that because he's acrobatic, so he's climbing up on the tree limbs and undoing like latches and stuff and trying to let them down. Meanwhile, Vexen is still investigating, and what he discovers at the back of the subterranean cavern happens to be a perfectly shaped circle where all the water is flowing down. And it's very uncanny considering everything else is so natural, and then there's this bizarre perfect circle where the water is just flowing down. And he's thinking about it. He's like, grabs a little stone, throws it down there, here's nothing. So he's like, yeah, that's pretty far down. So that's where we're going to stop with that. And then from there, Nox's kid, he happens to discover what appears to be a medallion, a small medallion nailed to the tree. And what it is it is a circle made from 3 arms around a black center. And so Wick and Vorkeef, using a religion and history check to try and discern what it is, they discover, or at least through their combined knowledge, the roles only get them a name. They're like, I recognize that symbol. It's a symbol of the betrayer god Torog. Now, they don't know anything about Torog because their roles weren't very high, but they are well versed enough to know it's like, okay, this is the symbol of a betrayer god. So we'll figure it out. We'll do some investigating. Anyways, from there, the party decides it's like, we're probably gonna have to split up. We got to go and see what's going on. We got to get back to Tuasoa because there's too many people, right? Vorkeef's trying to heal people. They're trying to stabilize people, but there's too many of them to move, and they're too heavily wounded. So from there, they decide to split up. So Nox's kid, Vexen, and Xander, they're going to actually stay behind and look after the injured captives, while Vorkeef, Dolomon, and Wick journey back to Tuasoa to tell the Marquis of what they found. Now, it's at this point, it's been about 2 hours or so that Vorkeef, Wick, and Dolomon have been traveling. And by the time they reach the Marquis' offices in the Latoy Plaza in the city, what they discover is that the Zalesto guards are not posted outside, and as they open the great double doors, they discover that actually it's come under attack by unknown assailants, and they're like Celestos and other people just scattered throughout that are dead. And so they're like, oh snap, well, this isn't good. And essentially that's where that particular session ends. So that's also where this video ends, and with that we will conclude on the next one. All right, so till then, take care.